All right, so just I guess kind of explain to me the campaign here and the general message behind it.
Okay, well this is totally a grassroots effort that we started to put together, several of us, on Wednesday afternoon. And of course it was the day before Thanksgiving, so we sent out probably 50 or 60 emails to folks hoping we'd hear something back. And by 12 o'clock today we hope to have some kind of response. Well, the response was overwhelming. What we have here in Virginia is a chance to make history, and it's not just about one race for governor. We have governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general up, but this race for governor is a chance that we can make real history in the country and elect the first African-American woman running for governor. We have two women. The only announced candidates we have now are two African-American women, both very experienced, very strong, and sterling advocates for all of Virginia. And you know, when Joe Biden was nominated as President of the United States, the leaders, the women of color, and a lot of other groups said, enough. We demand you pick a woman as your vice president. Well, in Virginia, we're about to make some good trouble and demand the same thing. We think it's time. We're tired of referring back to 1993, although I love Mary Sue Terry. She's a dear friend. She's the only woman we've ever elected statewide in this Commonwealth. In 400 years of history, we now have a woman speaker. It's time to have a woman governor. So as a result, Her Excellency VA 2021 was started. Why Her Excellency? That's what you call the governor of Virginia. There have been 73, as I recall, and they are titled His Excellency. We think it's time we have Her Excellency. Excuse me, Her Excellency.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about the candidates themselves, and you know, aside from being women, what are some things that you think they'll do for all Virginians, and reasons why they're so qualified, and you know, voters should consider them?
Well, first let me say that there are women here today who support State Senator Jennifer McClellan, and there are women here today that support Delegate Jennifer Carroll Foy. But we were united in one cause. Jennifer McClellan, as our state senator, has been an elected legislator for 12 years. I met her first in 1993 when she was chair of the YDs of the Commonwealth of Virginia. She has been chair of the MLK Commission. What a wonderful time in history to elect someone like that. She is a mother of a young son and a young daughter. She has been a leader on issues of equal rights. She's been a leader on social justice, women's health care, and education. Jennifer Carroll Foy, I also know, is a great, strong leader. She actually was elected for the first time several years ago in 2017 while she was pregnant with twins. And she still managed to take off an incumbent Republican. She is one of the first women graduates of VMI, which, as you know, has been an all-male school for quite some time. She has been a fierce advocate for women with the ERA in the House of Delegates. And I know she doesn't back down. She's a lawyer, as is Jennifer McClellan. Neither of them back down. Both of them have the strength, have the responsibility, and they have the knowledge and the know-how to move this Commonwealth forward.
What did we learn, or maybe not learn, but observe just in the recent election here about turnout among women, about you know, turnout among female voters, among the different races, and how they voted? And how do you think that plays into next year?
Oh, I think it plays into it quite a bit. You know, there was a last couple elections prior to this one, governor's races, and you can take a look at it, were some of the lowest in history. I do believe this time we will have one of the largest votes in history because so many people have been activated, so many women have been activated, and so many men have been activated that have not voted in the past. We have COVID, which is putting a strain on all of us financially, emotionally, and physically. And it's time we have someone who understands those things. And with these two women, we do have some people, one of them, whichever one they have to be, we hope it's one of two of them, will be the leader that we need this particular time. It is not, again, about just one race. It is about the country moving forward and taking our good trouble, just like Joe Biden did and John Lewis did, and taking to the country.
Do you think that the female voters who were particularly energized in this past presidential election will carry that same energy into a gubernatorial primary?
Most definitely. You know, we owe a lot to the women that come before us, I wear this pin of a grandma carrying grocery bags. And I wear it all the time to remind myself of so many women who have come before us and what they've done to set the stage for us. In 2017, after Hillary Clinton's loss, women were activated. We have groups represented here today that were activated and put together because of that. I do believe more and more and more are getting energized and active, from older women to younger women to first-time voters. And I think this time in Virginia, we'll be able to not only re-elect our speaker as a woman, but elect the first woman governor.
You touched on some of this here, coming off of Hillary Clinton's run. Having Donald Trump on the ballot this past year certainly energized a lot of women voters. Not having Donald Trump on a gubernatorial primary, will that energy, though, do you think it'll carry over, especially in a primary?
I do, particularly the fact that we have these two women running. I most definitely think it will. It'll energize even more for something good, not just to be against something. Elections are about for and against. It's to be for something, and we can be for something great.
I know we're just getting started with this, but what are kind of the next steps? Where do you take this campaign from here?
Well, I think we were going to introduce it in a couple of days, but the response has been so great in just not even 36 hours, I guess, really. We intend to post it on social media, ask people to sign on and join us, and who knows where we'll go from there. The sky's the limit, and we'll just see how we can end up breaking that last glass ceiling here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Awesome. Anything else that I didn't touch on that you would like to say?
They're distracting me. How they got out, I do not know. I just take a look at my notes and I wanted to say. I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan.
Hey, guys, how'd you get out?
They just keep coming.
Let me go.
Yes,
Came
sir.
and another came and they just keep coming.
I'm Jennifer Boyce. I'm a member of the Virginia Senate.
Yeah.
I represent this area.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm fine if the dog's safe, if you're cool with that. Hey, come here, guys.
Hold on, sorry, hold on.
Actually, you could a little bit closer to the mic, actually. Yeah.
You smell my dog? You smell me, Mr. Lincoln?
Come on, Cincy. Let's go. Come on.
So yeah, I guess let's take it from the top. Talk a little bit about this campaign to get behind the two candidates for the Democratic nominee.
Great. I'm Senator Jennifer Boysko. I represent the 33rd Senate District. That is right here in Northern Virginia, Eastern Loudoun, Northwestern Fairfax County. I am supporting State Senator Jennifer McClellan, who is my colleague in the State Senate. I have known her for a number of years, not only before she was in the Senate as a member of the House of Delegates, where we both served together, but now in the Senate, where we have worked collaboratively on a number of issues that I care very passionately about, and I know that a lot of people in Virginia do as well, including equal pay for equal work, women's reproductive health, and the environmental changes that we need to make around our energy sources of Virginia, and most recently, criminal justice reform. Senator Jennifer McClellan has been somebody in the trenches. She has built relationships with other lawmakers, and she is someone who is a collaborator, who is someone who brings people together. That's what I want out of a governor this next year. We have just come through an incredibly difficult time, both in Virginia as well as in the nation. I want somebody who is going to be a convener, someone who's going to bring us together so that we can work together to do the people's work. And Jennifer McClellan is that person. She's somebody that I highly respect, and she is seen as a leader on both sides of the aisle, but she is a fierce advocate for the progressive issues that I really care about.
We've heard from some of the women here. We've heard, from other groups of women in Northern Virginia that, feel really good about, what happened back in November. It feels like forever ago, right? What happened back on the 3rd. But that's not going to do when it comes next year, as far as electing an old white guy. I guess talk a little bit about the energy that comes off of that election, and now kind of the mission forward for you and some of the others to get behind a female.
Well, we have watched the grassroots get together and work over the past 5 years, really unprecedented in recent times, and many of them are people who care about issues that we talk about at the kitchen table. Whether it's childcare, whether it's education, whether it is everyone, for immigrants, for women, for people who have been disenfranchised. We find that giving people the opportunity and the hope that we're really going to address those kinds of issues engages people. And it is our women candidates who are really at the front of that issue. I believe that we all appreciate that Joe Biden has stepped up, but we don't see him as an end game. I'm so glad that he's going to be the president. I want someone who is fresh, who is really connected to the community, who is ready to take that next step. And I think electing a woman and an African American woman would be such a beautiful statement for Virginia and for the nation. And that's why I'm so excited. And someone like Jennifer McClellan is absolutely capable and ready to go on day one.
What I would say what does a name like Terry McAuliffe on the primary ballot do to the entire field?
Sure. Well, Terry McAuliffe is a force of his own, right? I mean, we all love him. He was a great governor, and if he serves again, he will do a wonderful job. We have a one-term governor in Virginia, and I think it's really important that other voices are heard and are given an equal chance.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to progressive men who are going to go into this primary and they might be behind a lot of the same issues that these two women candidates are supporting, but they're maybe not sure if they're going to vote for a woman. What do you say to those guys?
Well, I think it's important that we vote for people who are highly qualified, and the women that we're getting behind are highly qualified. They're both, Jennifer McClellan has a business background. She is well versed in public policy. She has more experience than anyone who's been on the ballot recently for governor has been legislatively. So we're talking competency, which is very important, but we're also talking about what we want to bring forward for the public. And having a woman is a statement.
Very good. Anything else you want to touch on?
That's it. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for being
Appreciate
here.
it.
Take the next chair, Randall. How you been?
I am well. How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Perfect.
You got me?
Yep.
This side, that side?
Both are good sides.
Yeah, see, that's a good answer.
Now that you're proud, here's the hard question. No.
Okay.
So let's just talk a little bit about this campaign and why you're behind it.
So, first of all, when Susan put this together, I thought only Susan can do this. Only someone who thought about all the things that were women that she's done before. So when I got the letter, I sent that to her right away, talking about her excellency. But there's a couple things I want to say as chair at large of Loudoun County, and somebody who's really quite the policy one. A couple things. One, yes, I want to elect a woman, and yes, I want to elect a woman of color. But the truth is, I want to elect a competent human being. And Jennifer Carrifoy and Jennifer McClellan are incredibly competent human beings. I'm supporting Jennifer McClellan, who's been in the House for 12 years, been in the Senate for 4 years, for a lot of reasons. But one of them is her deep involvement in policy issues, because in the end, policy is what matters. Many years ago, when Bob McDonnell put forward House Bill 2313 that produced more revenue to have for transportation in Northern Virginia, Jennifer McClellan supported that. She supported it because she realized and she knew that Northern Virginia's economy moves Virginia. And so to have transportation work in Northern Virginia meant that Virginia as a whole had more revenue and more economy. So things like that are really important to me. Personalities are fine and all those other things, but policy. And for Northern Virginia policy, I have had long talks to Jennifer McClellan about these issues, and she is really very aware. She and I met in 2004 at the Sorensen Institute and have become good friends ever since then. And so I absolutely want to support a woman, and it is incredibly humbling as a woman of color to be able to support a woman of color and a friend. But the competency and the policies are really what push me over the line.
Yeah, you absolutely touched on a couple of these, but for your constituents, for Loudoun voters in particular, what do you think these two women or Ms. McClellan bring that the other candidates don't?
that what you talk about when you talk about Northern Virginia is traffic. So bringing traffic relief was very, very important. Understanding our economy is very important. I'm in Loudoun County, the data center capital of the world. To understand technology is very important. She's talked recently, Ms. McClellan, about the importance of broadband, rural broadband everywhere, because as in COVID, what we realize is that telework, telehealth, telelearning all comes with broadband. She's talked about that recently. So there are so many issues that impact Loudoun and Northern Virginia that Ms. McClellan has talked about recently, and literally, I talk to her all the time about these issues. She's somebody to get on the phone and say, Jennifer, we want to talk a little bit more about electric cars and things like that. What's your thoughts on that? And we have those discussions. And so policy isn't. I mean, again, I'm a bit of a political policy nerd, and so. Yes, I want a woman. Yes, I want a woman of color, but I want somebody who I can have deep policy discussions, who understands the issues, who knows what she's talking about, knows why she's fighting for it, has passion for it, but will then stay up late at night and read policy manuals about land use and things like that. So I'm thrilled to support Mrs. McClellan for this. This wasn't even a hard. This was. I mean, sometimes you have you have this. Who do I have to support? And it kind of becomes how's this going to look? This wasn't one of these moments for me. This was easy.
In being a policy nerd, you have to also understand voter trends, what's actually happening with the electorate. Talk a little bit about, of course, what we've seen over, I guess, the short, long term here in Loudoun County and trends, but also coming off of just the election a few weeks ago and the energy among female voters specifically here in Loudoun.
Well, I'm the chair of Loudoun County, and so I believe Loudoun's the best county in the country. I believe that. I say that all the time. And in Loudoun County, and I'll speak for just my county, we have incredibly informed electorate. People pay attention, they read, they want the questions answered, and those types. What are you going to do about traffic? How do you feel about getting more revenue going? My gosh, we want to have more EV charging stations all around Loudoun County. Those types of things. And so you have voters in Loudoun County and truthfully in Northern Virginia that are very educated voters that take their time and research. And so the energy in Loudoun County is around what the person and what the person's going to bring as far as their knowledge base. And so when I think about Ms. McClellan, it's that she's going to understand our issues. She has the knowledge base to grasp what's going on up here. And so I would tell you, this past year, we took down the Confederate statue in front of the courthouse. I had been fighting to do that for 12 years. I talked to Ms. McClellan about that. I put that in task for the Confederate statue that was sitting in front of our courthouse, of all places, to come down. And so she connected on that human level, but she also connects on the policy level. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty remarkable.
Anything else, Carol, you'd like to say on this topic?
I just want to thank Susan Platt for thinking of this, and only Susan Platt would think of doing her excellency. It's just a fantastic idea, and one of these moments where you think, okay, this is what's happening right now, but you know this is going to last into other races in many years to come. So good job on Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 5 left.
Okay.
We have Lisa Savazzo is the Democratic Party chair of Loudoun County.
Okay.
Lisa Sales is the chairwoman of the Commission of Women and Families in Fairfax County.
Okay.
Marisa is now. Mr. Jones has been a long-time community activist from Alexandria. He has represented everything that's related to women. And Barb Jones, Barb Jones is part of a new group that formed after 2016 called Network Nova. They can claim responsibility for electing a whole lot of women all across Virginia. And also on the
National Organization of Women in Law.
no, thank you.
All right, I got lots in here.
You want to take one step closer to the mic.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect. First, can you say and spell your first and last name, please?
Yep, it's Barbara Jones, BARBARAJONES.
Very good. And we're talking, you can just look at me.
Okay.
Tell me again, now that it's recording, and I'll have it later, the groups that you represent.
So I am one of the 8 founding members of a grassroots organization called Network Nova. We got together immediately
after the Trump administration came into being. 8 women met that didn't know each other off Facebook, and we met at a Panera, and we decided to have a women's summit in Virginia to bring all the women across the whole state to flip Virginia blue.
Since 2016, what's been your observation of female voters in Northern Virginia?
Well, you've got a magnificent group right here of leaders. I was not a leader. I'm an ordinary woman who decided to stand up because I didn't like how women were depicted by our current president and how we were spoken to. And as you know, from the Women's March, I was one of millions. What I know for sure is women stepped up. They used their resources. They used their talents. They did whatever they could, and they didn't ask permission to get women and individuals out to vote. And voting is what we did. And as you know, in 2016, they thought maybe 4 races would be flipped. Well, we know what happened there. We almost flipped the whole House of Delegates, and it came down to 1 vote.
As I mentioned with Susan, and you touched on kind of the energy in female voters coming off of 2016. But how do you carry that energy from this past election into a primary election for a governor's race?
Oh my gosh. So, what I can tell you, and I know it from my own, from with these women, and from everyone that I've met, no one has fallen out. The only thing women have done is they've gotten better. They've gotten more organized. They've gotten more networked. And they've gotten more talents. And then the last thing that happens, they become leaders. They run for office. We have groomed in Virginia and across the nation a whole platform of women to run. So for me, the primary, that's nothing. This is what we do every year. So Virginia, we are really lucky. We're unique. We're one of the few states that has elections every year. So we never step out of beat. We're always calling each other. We're connecting. We know who does what well. Kind of like that PTA and the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. Now it's on a political level. And, we made it roll.
Anything else you want to say?
I'm very excited to have 2 women running for office. We need the presence of a woman leading the state. We look right now what happened to our nation under this pandemic, and the critical infrastructure of childcare was pulled out. Women had to come home and stayed home to take care of children. They had to work, take care of children, and go about their business and teach them and educate them as well as fathers, right? Not wear 1 hat, 2 hats, 3 hats. We need a woman in office because it's endemic. It's who they are. It's imperative that they can lead on the issues that affect them and affect their families, affect their communities, and affects the state of Virginia. This is an economic impact, and we have to take care of women and take care of the families and the most vulnerable. And so I'm confident Senator McClellan and Delegate Carol Foy, either one of them can do a phenomenal job to lead this state and lead the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Next up, Krista Jones.
Sure. Can you take 1 step closer, please? Thank you. Okay. All right. First, can you say and spell your first and last name and tell me the group that you represent?
Krista Jones, Krysta, Jones, Jones. I'm involved in a lot of groups, but don't want to represent me today.
Sure, absolutely. And we're talking, you just look at me. Just talk a little bit about the Her Excellency campaign and why you're behind it.
This campaign is really important to me for a lot of the reasons that you've already heard. It would be definitely great to have a woman. It was definitely great to have a Black woman be the governor of Virginia. But really, it's what Chair Randall was saying earlier. We want the most qualified person. And to me, it just so happens that one of these women who is running has been in office longer than the men that are being put up to run, with several of them. So I just think that's a really important point. I think sometimes people are concerned about identity politics, especially now at this time in our country. We really need the best person to lead. Also, a lot of times African American women in particular are told that we need to do all these things to get ahead. We have to be so much more qualified. And I just think it's really interesting that right now we have such a qualified woman, and she really is the one who deserves to be governor.
I mean, as long as we're still, for as long as it's going to, I guess, continue to go on, as long as we're still talking about glass ceilings and talking about those things, there's going to be some identity politics, right? That's almost inevitable. How, when you're still trying to break certain glass ceilings, do you kind of get around some of that stuff?
I agree with you, but I just think we've kind of come to the point in our country, affirmative action really started in the 70s. We've had so many African Americans that are just really qualified. I mean, there's no other way to look at it with their experience, whether, as we were saying earlier, Jennifer McClellan in the business community, look at Carol Foy with VMI. So many African Americans who've gone above and beyond, and really it's time. It's almost like in the natural course of time, they're ready. So that they're ready to break the glass ceilings because they are qualified, not just because they are African American.
Great. Talk to me about the I know we've kind of asked everybody about this, but about the energy of female voters, and like we discussed, and like it's very widely known that having Trump on the ticket certainly fueled a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Without having him on a primary ballot, how do you keep that energy going?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I may not be as optimistic as some of the other ladies in terms of Trump's influence. It was huge. It was really huge in turnout. In 2019, that's when people were, we were handing them sample ballots, and they were telling us, we're voting for this person because we're voting against Trump. So not to say that Democrats can't win in Virginia next year, but I just think it's going to take some extra effort. It really is. And to be quite honest, what the Biden-Harris administration do in these next few months are going to be critical in terms of what happens in Virginia, how they handle coronavirus, how they handle criminal justice reform, how they handle the economy. We're going to really need to be working in close concert with them and to make sure that they're doing the right thing and that it funnels down to our voters in Virginia. That's what's going to help with the energy. I do think with such a crowded primary that looks like it's going to be happening, that's going to help too. That always helps out bring out more people. But then obviously we have to be concerned afterwards that it's not overly contentious and that we can all move forward to hopefully a female candidate.
Very good. Well said. Anything else?
Just one more thing. I want to say that I really think this race is interesting because a lot of times we talk or people refer to the African American community as being monolithic. And I think in particular, these two female candidates, how different they are. And they're different, the same in some of the issues, but just in their experience and just their demeanor. I think that's almost proof that we've come to the point where we need to stop looking at African Americans as being monolithic, and all of the candidates need to start addressing the voters that way.
Thank you so much.
Next one, Lisa Sale from Fairfax Commissioners. Good job.
Right then.
Let's switch sides. Yep. Okay. Go ahead. All right. First, can you say and spell your name, please?
Yes, my name is Lisa Sales, Lisasales.
And the group you represent?
I am the chairwoman of the Fairfax County Commission for Women.
Very good. Talk to me a little bit about the Her Excellency campaign and what it means to you and why you support it.
Yeah, well, women lead differently than men. I think that's fundamental. We see that in New Zealand, we see that in Germany. And what people don't realize in this country is that women are the poorest of the poor. Women by socioeconomic class, women, black and brown women. And so we need to do whatever we can to raise women up. That's more than half the workforce, more than 52% and 51% of the population. So it's beyond me why men think they can still come in here and steamroll through the women. And I think we really need to support women. We need to raise the voices of women. If not for women, right, our issues wouldn't get solved. White men have been here, white men in particular, have been holding these roles, holding these positions of power, and we still have pay inequity. We still have sexual harassment in the workplace. For example, New York and California have the strictest laws in the country on sexual harassment in the workplace and require strict training.
Why don't we have that in Virginia? So why is abortion still in the criminal code in Virginia? There are so many issues. Men have had the opportunity to lead. We women have been behind men, supporting them, raising them up. It's time for men to get behind women and raise them up.
Good. What are some of the, I guess, building off of that, some of the issues in particular, some of the things that these two women candidates are supporting that you think you and others could get behind, and maybe even men would get behind?
Well, in particular, I already mentioned sexual harassment, but what about sexual violence? What about domestic violence? It's amazing to me the sheer numbers of sexual violence experienced and the shared stories we as women have that we didn't used to talk about. We weren't allowed to talk about. We would just brush it under the rug, right? And they've gone unaddressed. And I don't think people realize, honestly, how many women are impacted by sexual and domestic violence, how that changes our lives.
How do you keep the energy from this past election moving forward and keep those women voters energized going into a primary election?
I think we keep talking and we keep raising each other's voices. And I'm here because at the end of the day, it's all about us together lifting women up of all backgrounds, black, white, brown, mixed, right? It's about all of us bringing our voices to the table, shaping and changing policy.
Anything else you want to mention?
Nope, I think that's it.
Thank you so much. Can we take one step closer, please? Perfect, thank you. First, can you say and spell your first and last name?
Yeah, Teresa Quito, Q-U-I-T-T-O -Dickerson, D-I-C-O-E-R-S-O.
It's spelled Teresa. And tell me, group you represent or you work with?
Several. So, I am on the executive board for the Loudoun County Democrats, as well as Loudoun County Now, which Barbara talked about, and also a new nonprofit advocacy group called the Activity People, which is directly specifically for African American rights, fighting for those.
Very good.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about these two candidates. What do you like about them, and why do you think other people who are maybe just now starting or will start soon paying attention to the governor's race coming off of the other election, what they might be looking for and interested in?
So first I want to talk about the fact that while some of the other women have been doing this for a while, I sort of got activated during the 2016 election. So all the women that they were talking about who saw what was happening and was like, I got to do something, I was one of those women. So because of that, I started to find out that, how to find information, where to go, what types of people to get in contact with, how to get activated. And that's how I met a lot of these women, was because as a woman, as a mother, as a business owner, as a lesbian who also had some skin in the game, I had to figure out how can I protect myself and my family and my community. I live in Loudoun County in Virginia, which a lot of people don't realize is actually a pretty good place to live as a person who basically is a trifecta of different minority groups. So, it's very comfortable, and I wanted it to stay that way. So I need to know, how can I do that? So talking about finding out these two women are running, black women at that. Like I mentioned, I am also a board member for the Activity People. Both of these women sort of embody some of the things that we're working for, right? We want safety for living. We want so we're working for getting education across Virginia, right? Both of them have platforms that are running. We're also looking at efforts to right?
Let's back up and talk about when you felt a little bit, I guess, politically activated in 2016. I know that might be a silly question, giving the audience here, but talk to me about what energized you back then, coming off of President Trump's win.
I was so excited to see a woman run, and whatever camp you belong to in the Democratic Party, as far as Hillary Clinton. I was more excited the fact that there was just a woman running, and as a woman, you before anything, right? I'm a black woman, right? So just seeing a woman run just gives you this like almost like an okay, you got this type of thing. And so when Trump won, it sort of was not only a letdown as a Democrat, but a letdown as a woman, right? Like it was almost like, well, you know, when you have somebody who's so educated and so obvious a choice, and then the country's just like, just kidding. You know what I'm saying? It gave you this sense of, are you serious? This is what we're still fighting for. And like I mentioned, I'm pretty brand new to this. I raised all my kids, and so I was really focused on that. And then to come to find out that we didn't even have equal rights, and then so that's how I decided to start getting energized around the ERA. I'm like, so this is why I shouldn't win. Like, we're still fighting for these basic, like 51% of our population is still fighting for basic stuff. And so looking at that and just realizing that, like, my kids are being brought in, growing up in a world that still doesn't have equal rights for women. As a black person, you know, we're still fighting for justice, economic justice, and police brutality and things like that. But it just, at that point, it was just sort of like, I'm tired, right? Like, I didn't want to go on Facebook and rant. Like, I didn't just want to be like, oh, Trump, blah, 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 blah. I was like, you know, I want to do something, and I don't want to just, so it's wherever I can do it, right? Like, here are my skill sets. I raised 3 kids. I was president of PTA. I did all those things. Where can I take those skills and start, you know, putting that energy into something? And so through that, I found these amazing organizations and met these amazing women, most of who spoke with today. And it just, you know, really, not only did they encourage me to be more activated and to be more involved, I also saw, like, how people who've been doing this for years, how, you know, how much work they're doing, and how much of what's they're looking for, you know, how much history is behind women in politics and getting activated around issues. And that's what really drove me. So it was Trump, and then because of Trump, I met these amazing women, right? And so when Barbara sent me an email about, you know, this her excellency, it's like, it's fine, you know, you get back to the picture, just like, great, here we go again. And this time we're not moving, right? Like, both candidates are wonderful, and I think there's stuff on both of them. And like Chairman Bill said, I'm in Loudoun County, and we're used to being like really research driven on who our candidates are, and so that's, of course, that's what I did. And you know, both of them stand for, like I said, economic rights and reproductive rights and all the things I care about as a woman, and not just a black woman, just a woman in general, right? So that was that.
Because you're part of the young Democrats, I want to ask you.
I'm not.
What's that?
I'm not. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
Isn't that what you said? Or did you say
I'm
Loudoun
Loudoun
County
County
Democrats?
Democrats.
Oh, okay. Somebody else said YD earlier, and then it was just like,
No,
it was
thank
in my
you
head.
so much.
Well, I'll still ask you.
Right. Well,
I'll still ask you.
I'll take it. No.
I mean, we know that young voters, young Democrats in particular, were also very energized, regardless of their sex, in this past election. When inauguration comes and goes, how do you keep that other sect of voters that's very vital energized in going into a primary election?
So I will tell you that I was a young Dem when this started. I did cross over the age gap, you know, in the middle of this. So I can't say one of the things that, and then I have a son that's in his early 20s. One of the things that young people really care about are environmental rights. Like, they're so much more passionate. And I think even my generation, I'm a millennial, but I mean, these younger kids are really passionate about the environment. And so keeping those types of things that are at the forefront. They also grew up in a world where, you know, abortion was just the thing. Like, it wasn't something that they didn't really have to fight as hard as the people behind them, right? And so, like, them starting to understand that people are still trying to take those rights away, that sort of energizes them as well. You know, they have what they think life is supposed to be. When they start trying to chip away at that, they're not really going to be happy about that. So I think one of the best ways to keep younger people involved is to keep an eye on what matters to them, and then get them activated for that, right? So.
Anything else you want to say?
Thank you for the opportunity, and I want to say thank you to Barbara and Susan. And this is a perfect example of how you get an ordinary house mother, right, to get activated into work. And like, these are the women who we look up to, and the 2 women that are running. That's even more something to look forward to. So.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Last up, Lisa Sabaglia, Chair of Loudoun County Democrats.
Great. Sure. Okay. All right. First, can you say and spell your name, please?
Lisa Savaglia, Lisavaglia.
You're with the Loudoun County Dems.
I am the chair of the Loudoun County Democratic Committee, and I am the vice chair of the Northern Virginia region for the Democratic Chairs Association of Virginia.
Okay, very good. So let's take that second one and back up a little bit more widely outside of Loudoun County. How do you get the energy around the Northern Virginia vote to support one of these women candidates?
So, getting it around the Northern Virginia vote, or?
Yeah, just kind of the region as a whole.
Oh, okay. It's all about the issues. People are very, very concerned about the issues. They want to know what's going on in their communities, and they want to know that they've got a chance to change it. They're not just getting on Facebook. They're not just complaining. They want to be a part of it.
What do you think a couple of the issues are that people are really going to look at the two women candidates and make their decisions based on those issues? Like what are a couple of the defining ones, do you think?
I think it would be economic growth and, of course, rural broadband. The coronavirus has really shown that, people out in rural areas, they do not have the same access as some of the more urban areas. And, that's affected education, that's affected telehealth, that's affected every part of their lives. I think that's going to be different.
Absolutely. And I guess I'll just ask you, some of those similar questions about, the energy of the voter and kind of keeping that going into a primary election first. How do you keep that energy alive and get a sizable turnout that might be favorable to what you guys are after?
So, I do agree Trump did have a lot to do with our turnout beforehand, but what we're finding is, like I said before, people, they care about the issues. They want to know about the issues. They want to, things that are affecting them. We are not in an age where people are just going to stand by and let it happen anymore. They've seen what happens when you do that. I became activated in 2016 as well, and it was for that reason that, I stood by long enough, just status quo, and I was fine with it until you're not. And we definitely hit that point. And there's a lot of energy around that. There's a lot of energy about, people wanting to make their lives better, people wanting to make their communities better, people wanting to reach out to their neighbors and get together and to really work on the things that are affecting their daily lives.
Anything else you want to say?
No. Well, thank you to Susan and Bob Jones and everybody.
Thank you.
Did you say you're the first woman? I'm not.
Say that, please.
But I'm not the first woman chair.
I thought you were.
No, Val was chair before me.
All right, I thought you were. But I do want to add one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want me to do it.
Sure, please. Yeah.
Women across the country are underrepresented in legislatures across the country, in Congress. We are more than 50% of the population, and we are less than a quarter in lawmaking houses across the country, firstly. The second thing is I resent this idea that every time we talk about women and women candidates, that we have to say qualified in front of their name. She's a qualified candidate. We have plenty of qualified, talented women. Well, of course we want qualified, talented women, right? But when do you ever hear that in front of a man's name? And so I think that's a really important point. We don't always have to say that woman is qualified, right? We don't always have to say that before their name. So let's elect qualified women, let's elect qualified men, but let's not always counter with, oh, we want her to be qualified. She's qualified. They're qualified. They're more than qualified. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
I wanted to add, she said that. I wanted to add how to reach out.
Sure, please.
Hey, buddy.
Okay.
10 years ago, when I founded Emerge Virginia, women comprised 13% of the General Assembly. They're now over 25%. And if you'd like to help us with this effort of electing Her Excellency in 2021 in Virginia, please go to the Facebook post Her Excellency VA 2021 and sign up. Thank you.
Let me ask you one more question since I got you. What does, I guess, kind of already, what has Vice President-elect Kamala Harris maybe done to influence some voters' minds here as we go into this next election, and what will you be looking for out of her in those first few months of her vice presidency?
Well, I look towards Joe Biden first because I was his chief of staff for a couple of years in the Senate, so I have great confidence in what he will do, and I have great confidence in how he will lead and how his chosen partner will lead in Kamala Harris. I know she'll be a strong voice when it comes to national security. I know she'll be a strong voice for those that are underserved and underrepresented. I know she'll be a strong voice for the economy. So I do think this will help us as we go forward in Virginia. You know, Virginia lots of times leads the way, sometimes in good and sometimes in bad. And I think this time, with the great leadership we'll have with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, we'll be able to elect Her Excellency in 2021 in Virginia.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, guys.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
I'm sorry about these dogs.
We've got our conversation going now.
So I just wanted to add that
Oh, he's getting it.
it gets pretty annoying that everybody is like, oh, women's issues, women's issues, women's issues. You never hear somebody say men's issues. You know, women's issues are human issues. They're economic issues. They, you know, are family issues. They're broadband issues. There's, you know, it's not specific women's issues. It affects everybody. And we're seeing now that, you know, our community and our country is realizing that. And that's pretty awesome. That was it.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much.